The bell was supposed to make him untouchable. 1 week before his company's NASDAQ debut, Jax Miller looked like the perfect founder. He had bankers, a roadshow, luxury investors, a mansion, and a valuation story polished for Wall Street. But inside his own house, the foundation was rotting. His wife's credit score had collapsed to 315. 30 credit cards had been opened under her stolen identity. More than $100,000 in property taxes sat unpaid. Cayman accounts were moving millions in pre-IPO funds through shell companies. And Jax had no idea the woman he treated like staff was not powerless. She was Victoria Belmont, hidden heir, silent capital operator, and the one person capable of turning his IPO into a public execution. Then, Thanksgiving exposed everything. Jax Miller was not building a company anymore. He was building a stage. Miller Industries was days away from ringing the NASDAQ bell, and Jax needed the world to see a genius founder. Not a desperate man juggling debt, fake numbers, forged documents, and family chaos. At home, the performance was even uglier. His mistress, Lexi, wore jewelry bought through Victoria's stolen Social Security number. His mother acted like the villa belonged to her. His unpaid bills stacked up quietly while everyone celebrated future wealth that did not exist yet. That was the fantasy. The mansion had been paid for in full by Victoria, but the family treated her like a servant in her own home. They ordered her around in rooms she had bought. They mocked her quietness as weakness. They mistook silence for surrender. That was the first mistake. Jax thought ownership was paperwork. Victoria knew ownership was leverage, and in business, leverage decides who survives. The first fracture came through credit. Victoria discovered her score had crashed to 315 because Lexi had used her Social Security number to open 30 credit cards. Luxury bags, jewelry, and daily purchases had created hundreds of thousands in fraudulent debt. To Jax, it was just spending. To Victoria, it was federal identity theft. Then came the records. Lexi was not only stealing lifestyle money. She had opened 2 offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and started moving Jax's pre-IPO funds through shell trading structures. In just 48 hours, $5 million had already moved. Jax believed Lexi was dependent on him. In reality, she was preparing an escape route before the IPO ever reached the market. Greed blinds founders. Victoria contacted Chloe, her Wall Street operator, and ordered a full forensic reconstruction. Every transaction path had to be preserved. Every card purchase. Every luxury receipt. Every offshore transfer. Then Victoria asked for the financial books of Miller Industries. What came back was worse than betrayal. 3 Cayman shell companies were cycling money between themselves to inflate profits. Pre-IPO fundraising was being supported by cooked books. Fake audit reports and original invoices existed side by side, proving the deception was not accidental. It was structured. It was documented. It was waiting to explode. This was not aggressive accounting. It was financial suicide. Jax still believed the NASDAQ ceremony would crown him. Victoria decided it would bury him, but she did not move immediately. A good short attack needs timing. A great one needs arrogance, and Jax had more than enough. His second mistake was desperation. With more than $100,000 in unpaid property tax threatening the villa, Jax forced a $2 million bank guarantee onto Victoria. If the IPO failed, she would carry unlimited liability. She hesitated. Jax signed for her. That single forged signature became another chain around his neck. At the company, Victoria entered as a low-status assistant and quietly accessed the finance room. No speech, no confrontation, no dramatic reveal. Just documents, copied in silence. She found fake reports, original bills, shareholder lists, and Cayman account data. Chloe redirected the surveillance trail toward Lexi's own bodyguard. Jax instantly believed the wrong story because it matched his paranoia. That is how weak leaders fail. They punish the nearest threat, not the real one. Lexi was forced into a supplemental agreement giving up future marital property claims. Jax thought he had controlled her. He had only pushed her deeper into fraud. Then came the capital trap. Victoria arranged for Atlas Global Capital to offer Jax $30 million before the roadshow. A board observer seat. Jax accepted without understanding the cross-holdings. He saw money, not control. He saw rescue, not the hand closing around the company. Chloe warned Victoria that with one command, Miller's stock could hit a lower limit crash within 15 minutes of opening. Victoria waited again. She wanted Jax to buy into his own illusion first. So he spent. He boasted. He celebrated wealth that had not arrived. That was the trap. Meanwhile, Lexi forged authorization documents to access a $3 million trust channel. Victoria intentionally weakened the firewall and let her proceed. Not because she missed it, because she wanted it recorded. The bigger the transfer, the heavier the sentence. Every click became evidence. Every zero became prison time. By now, Miller Industries was no longer a startup story. It was a collapse wearing a founder's suit. When Lexi tried to move money through forged trust documents, Victoria captured federal fraud, document forgery, and interstate trust fraud. When Jax's debt began choking him, Athena Capital quietly bought 30% of his bad debt for $18 million. Jax celebrated the rescue. He had just handed his company's throat to Victoria. Athena was not a savior. Athena was Victoria's war machine. Its terms meant that if Jax defaulted, personal assets, real estate, vehicles, and even future income could be seized for 30 years. Still, he did not read closely. That was fatal. As banks froze accounts over identity theft and asset fraud, Jax searched for access to Victoria's $30 million overseas trust. Lawyers told him there were only two paths: Victoria's authorization or her death. So Jax and Lexi began planning an accident. They bought a fast-metabolizing drug for $100,000 through a black market doctor. They drugged Victoria's drink. Then they pushed her car over the edge. They believed she was gone. She was not. Victoria survived. And then she made the cruelest move possible. She let them file the insurance and trust claim. She let them expose motive. She let them put their fingerprints on every lie. Then she returned at her own funeral. Jax and Lexi realized the $30 million stayed locked as long as she lived. So they changed tactics. If they could not make Victoria dead, they would make her look insane. Hidden devices played horror sounds at night. Jax recorded what he expected would be her breakdown. But Chloe hijacked the footage and made the evidence point back at him. The doctor recommended psychiatric observation for Jax instead. The trap reversed perfectly. Cornered, Jax escaped. He stole a physical trust key through Lexi and fled toward international waters. He believed the key opened offshore accounts tied to Miller Industries. It was bait. Inside the key was a tracker and a Trojan. From a yacht, Jax entered short-selling commands, thinking he would crash his own stock, buy it back cheaply, and regain control before the NASDAQ debut. But every command betrayed him. Every route had already been prepared. Every shell company he trusted had become a hallway leading back to Victoria. Instead of giving him control, every offshore shell account routed into Athena Capital. He had signed away the assets himself. Then Victoria appeared on the forced video feed. She revealed Athena's founder, herself. That was the moment Jax finally understood the game. Victoria had not been reacting. She had been collecting. The credit fraud, the forged bank guarantee, the cooked books, the Cayman shell structures, the offshore transfers, the trust fraud, the market manipulation. Each piece looked separate, while Jax still felt powerful. Together they formed a cage. That is the oldest mistake in business crime. The fraudster thinks the danger is exposure, but the real danger is documentation. Victoria had allowed the lie to mature until it became undeniable.
At the bell ceremony, Jax made one final move. Disguised inside a metal-masked drum corps,
he entered the trading hall and tried to trigger hidden offshore accounts using a tattooed, dynamic passcode.
It was theatrical. It was desperate.
and it was already over. Those accounts had been empty for 3 years. The servers were isolated. The records were fabricated bait. His keystrokes did not move money. They built the prosecution file. Lexi testified. Wire transfers, shell companies, insurance fraud, identity theft, attempted murder, and market manipulation all landed in court. Jax received life behind walls, plus lifetime debt collection. Every prison wage beyond survival rations would repay creditors. The man who wanted a NASDAQ bell got a balance sheet he could never escape. Victoria rebuilt the company under the Belmont Group. Recovered illegal assets were donated to families harmed by financial crime. The mansion, the IPO, the offshore accounts, the fake reports, the mistress, the forged signatures, the debt rescue, the trust key, the yacht, the funeral, the bell ceremony. All of it had been one long lesson in control. Jax had confused access with ownership. He thought because he could sign papers, he owned the truth. He thought because people feared him, they were loyal. He thought because Victoria stayed quiet, she had nothing. He was wrong every time. Victoria won because she understood leverage before anyone else understood danger. She did not need to shout. She needed records. She did not need revenge on day one. She needed timing. She did not need to stop the lie early. She needed the lie to reveal everyone who was protected by it. That is the business lesson buried under the scandal. A company can survive debt. It can survive bad press. It can survive a failed launch. But it cannot survive when the person at the top starts believing fraud is strategy. Because once that happens, every number becomes a weapon. Every investor meeting becomes evidence. Every celebration becomes a countdown. Jax Miller wanted the bell to make him untouchable. Instead, it made the collapse public. He lost because he built an empire on stolen trust. Victoria won because she understood the oldest rule in business: never ring the bell on a lie.